Okay, so welcome to day 9 of our course, and I hope you are ready for today's lecture. Right. So today we're still going to be looking at more Python data structures. So today we're going to be looking at sets and tuples. Right. So we have looked at lists and dictionaries, right? So we're going to be moving on toward sets and tuples, right? So the difference between sets and tuples, between sets, tuples, lists, and dictionaries, right, is that some of them are mutable and some are not mutable. Right. So sets and tuples are also part of Python data structures, right? So I want us to look at what tuples first, right? Tuples, right? So okay, let me say this. We have what mutable and unmutable what data structures, right? So mutable, it means that it can be modified, right? So it means that the data structure can be modified, right? So which means that okay, a list is what a list dictionary, and sets are what are mutable, right? Then we have data structures that are not mutable, right? That are immutable, right? It means that they cannot be modified, right? Like your what? Like your tuple, right? So a tuple is immutable, so you cannot modify it. Once you create it, you can't change it, right? Once you create it, then it's final, right? That's why we call it what? It's immutable, right? So to create remember that to create a list, we use what? Square brackets, right? And to create a dictionary, we use what? Curly brackets, right? To create a set, we use what? Round brackets. These round brackets, right? So for example, let's say we have what? Coordinates, right? And we use what? Round brackets to create what? Our tuple. So with the tuple, you also separate the values using a comma, just like in any other data structure. So the main difference between a tuple, okay, let's say my list equals to, so the main difference between a tuple and a list is what? Is the brackets. So you should know you should know this difference, that if you see this kind of bracket, this is a list. If you see this kind of bracket, it's a tuple. If you see that kind of bracket, it's a dictionary. And if you see that kind of bracket, it's a set, right? So besides just these brackets, there is much more important difference, right? Good. So here we created our tuple coordinates, right? If we say coordinates, right, coordinates 0, something like this, and if we say 50. So here, if you remember with indexing, right, here, which means we're accessing what? The first value. But so with a list or with a dictionary, this works, right? But now with a tuple, if we do this, Python the odds are Python will give us an error, right? So let me run the code. See, we got what? A type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. We got an error because of this on line 9, right? That's because what? Tuples are immutable, right? So tuples are immutable. You cannot change them. Once you create a tuple, you cannot change it. The only way for you to change a tuple is for you to change the values directly, right? So once you create a tuple, you cannot change it, right? Okay, let me say this will cause an error because a tuple is immutable, right? Because a tuple is what? Immutable, right? So, but just like a list, right, a tuple does have what? Indexing, right? So which means what? This is 0 and this is what? This is 1. We can still access what? The values using what? Indexing. For example, if we say print, we say coordinates 0, right? I'm not running the code. See, on my terminal it printed 10. So tuples still have what? Indexing. We can still access the values using what? Their indexes. But the difference is that with a tuple you can access the value using indexes, but you cannot change that value. You cannot modify it. Once you create it, it's now official, right? So now, then you're now asking you, the odds are you're asking yourself, if a tuple, right, it's immutable. If I create it, it's official. It doesn't have a lot of features and functions. So what's the point of a tuple, right? So why should I use a tuple, right? So let's take an example. You are creating a system, right? Okay, let's say where we can use a tuple. We are creating a system, right? Okay, let's say where you can use a tuple on data that shouldn't be modified, right? e.g., for example, let's say you're working on a system. You have and your system takes things like what? Coordinates, right? ID number, full name, right? Things that are, that they are permanent, like your ID number. Once you get your ID number, it's permanent. You cannot change your ID number. And the coordinates of your location, they can never change, right? Those are official. So that's when you can use what? A tuple instead of what? Things like what? A sets and what? And lists, right? So you use tuple on data that you don't want it to be modified, right? Because if you use a list, you can maybe accidentally modify that data, but with a tuple, you know that you won't modify it. So a tuple is useful when you have a collection of values that should remain unchanged, right? So A tuple is useful when we have a collection of values that should remain unchanged, right? This is why we should use what? A tuple, right? So I want us to look at sets, right? So okay, let me do this. List that this is a tuple dictionary. This is a set, right? Do you see the difference between a set and a dictionary?
No, they look similar.
That's correct. So a set and a dictionary, they both use these curly braces, both of them, right? But here's the difference, right? So a dictionary, you know that it's what? It's a key. It's a key value what? System, right? So this is what? Dictionary, right? And this is what? Is a set. So a set is like a tuple and a list. You create them the same way, the values one by one, separated by a comma. That's the difference between what? A set and a dictionary, right? So that's the difference with a set and a dictionary. So do you now see the difference between a set and a dictionary?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So if you see these curly braces, then you now have to look at the format of the. You now have to look at the structure of the code within those curly braces. Then that's when you can know whether this is what? A dictionary or a set.
Okay.
Right. So a set is another collection of values like your list, tuples, and dictionary, right? But right, a set does not allow duplicates, right? It does not allow what? Duplicate values. What do I mean about that? Let's say number equals to 1 2 3 3 1 5 7 3 1 again, right? Print number. Okay, maybe there's a lot of numbers. Okay, so if I run this code, what do you think is going to be printed?
I think it will print 1 3 only.
Why are you saying it's going to print 1 3 only?
Given that you have said it does not allow duplicates, so given that 1 is being repeated there, it will only see the first instance of 1 and then the first instance of 3.
Okay, let's find out. I'm now running the code.
Okay.
Exactly. So you're correct. It's only printed at 1 and 3. Right.
Yes.
So that means that Python only keeps one copy of each value. If there are duplicates, then it now ignores what the second, third, fourth copies. It only keeps at one value of each item. So that is one of the main reasons we use what sets. If you are working with data that you want it to be unique, like things like ID numbers, phone numbers, those type of things are supposed to be unique to every user, right? So you can use things like what a set to make sure that what no values get repeated, right? So a list and a set, right? The difference between a list and a set is that you can say a list, what it preserves the duplicates, and the set right, and the set does not, right? So if our problem is give me the only unique values, a set is usually what a better choice. So know the difference between what a set and a list, right? So now remember that with tuples you can change the values, right? But with a set you can change what the values, right? You can modify the values and etc, right? So okay, how to create a set? Let's say we have what you just call it the name of your set, create your what categories, food, let's just say food and budget. You have created your set, right? And then to add items in a set, you just say what categories dot add, right? Round brackets, add transport, right? This is how you add items into a set. When you created the set and you can add the specific value, you can then add it later using what the dot add method, right? Then we can also remove what items in a set, right? So you just call out the name of the set dot remove, and then the name of the value that you want to remove, right? This is how you remove an item in a set. Then we can also check if something exists, right? Okay, what I want us to talk about right now, it's the in keyword. The in keyword, right? So what it does, right? Okay, it's actually in operator. So right, the in operator, right, it checks whether, right, a value exists or not, right? It checks what whether the value exists or not, right? Right. So here I'm going to create okay, let's use what a list. Let's say my list equals to food budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, So let's say is it if food in, right, my list print it exists, right? Now running the code. Oh, it's here. Okay, let me click and run it again. Right, what this does, right, is that it checks if a certain value exists in your data structure. You just have to use the keyword if and the value that you want to check. Food in, right, in my what, in my variable, in my data structure, in my whatever. If it exists, then 2 1 2 3, right? So you can also check if what a value exists in what, in a data structure, right? This so this in keyword, it works with a list, with a set, with a tuple, or with whatever. It works everywhere. So it's very useful if you want to check if a particular value exists somewhere, right? You can also even use it, inside what, a dictionary. Right. So, any questions with sets, tuples, and the in keyword?
I think it's okay. It's okay. It's okay as of now.
So as of now, it's okay. It's straightforward.
Yeah. I think I can understand for now.
Okay, then that's great. So again, today it was another short lecture, but from next week we are now changing things. We're now moving to new levels. We're now going to be learning how to use files with JSON, error handling, and then we're now going to be working on a project, right? So for this weekend, you should practice using sets, tuples, lists, dictionaries, and the in keyword. Also practice working with the loops. We're going to use that a lot next week.
Okay. Do we have a solution for the project that you gave us? You have it.
Okay.
So that
No.
I can check.
Did you send me your project?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
so can you send me it? Then I'm going to look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay then. So, any questions?
So far, so good. But this list and whatever data structures, do we use them optionally on when looking code, or we use them once in a while, or when we are making proper code, we don't use them?
We are going to use them almost every time, especially a list in the dictionary. We are going to be using it almost every time.
Okay.
So it's very key for you to be able to understand how they work and all of their methods.